So today's primary focus, y'all know I keep these pretty informal. I don't have slides for today. We're not going to be able to cover everything because it is a gnarly, in-depth topic. So I'm going to be highlighting just a couple of key areas for you guys. So today's topic, diversifying revenue streams. Nonprofits, by definition, are not designed to make a profit for distribution to shareholders or owners. That's just not in vocabulary in the nonprofit sector. Instead, we aim to achieve your mission and reinvest any surplus funds back into the programs and services. But achieving financial sustainability and creating that surplus, often termed like net positive revenue, financial surplus, these are like more of that Ruby. This is on your side of the house on educating us on financial information. But this is crucial for nonprofits' long-term success. So we're going to go over several strategies today to ensure that your nonprofit remains financially sustainable and can effectively manage funds. We won't be able to go into each of those like in super detail, but we'll be able to cover all of these throughout the entire rest of the year. Of course, if you have questions, just put them in the chat box, raise your hand on the screen. Just, in fact, sometimes I can't see everyone on the screen. Just unmute yourself and ask the question. So let's dive into what we're going to cover, which is diversifying revenue streams, grants, donations, corporate sponsorships, fundraising events, membership fees, program fees, merchandise sales, earned income ventures. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 8 ways to bring in revenue for your nonprofit. And there's more. Those are the 8 that I'm just going to cover today. And Michael, jump in at any point if you want to bless us with some of the gems that you have on some of this stuff too.
Sure will.
Trey, there's a question for you in the chat box. So if you don't mind, Trey, put your website to your nonprofit. I don't know. She may have stepped away. We'll get Trey's nonprofit put in there. Oh, Trey, will you drop your website to your nonprofit in the chat box for us?
Yes.
Okay, so when we're talking about, let's go into each of those 8 categories. So the first one is grants. This is really defined as, we put it into 3 areas. There's more, but the 3 we're going to look at are government grants, foundation grants, corporate grants. So when we're talking about government grants, we're talking about federal, state, local, and government grants, and understand and meet the specific requirements of reporting for each of those grants. So government grants, to me, they're the best because that's where you can get those $1, $2, $3 million grants that are commitments over 1, 2, 3, 5 years. They're really great. They're very hard to get. The grant application is gnarly. First step in order to receive a government grant is you have to have your UEI number. There's no more DUNS. DUNS doesn't exist anymore. It was replaced by UEI. If you do not have your UEI, start the process today because it can take a couple months to get that. Nothing worse than finding a government grant, applying for it, and then you can't even submit because you don't have your UEI and cage number. So to do that, you'll go to sam.gov and apply. You'll need your IRS letter of determination, probably your articles of incorporation. So if you guys don't have your UEI number for government grants, put that on your to-do list for today. First person to email me and says they have it done, I'll make a donation. It's on record if this is recorded. Okay. The next one I want to cover is foundation grants. Research and apply for grants from private and public foundations. You're going to tailor your proposal to align with the foundation's funding priorities. So first thing I would do, and you can even Google foundations that have granting services. Once you find that foundation, you want to make sure their mission is in alignment with your mission and programs. My recommendation, don't create a brand new program to apply just to get the funding. You're going to cause yourself a lot of headache. Use a program that you already have and apply to get additional funding, because one thing I'll give you, this is a plug of the day for foundation grant applications. I'll repeat it twice too. When you apply for a foundation grant, you want to demonstrate that you have other funders. If your program cost is $100,000, they do not want to see you apply for a $100,000 grant. you will automatically get rejected and thrown out. They want to see that your program costs 100,000 and maybe 50,000 of it is coming from a bunch of other sources and that you're only requesting maybe half of that support. That's when they'll support you. They'll also want to see, do you have a board? Is it a diverse board? They want to see that you have budget, and they want to see that you have impact numbers. So make sure when you go look for these foundations that have grants, you're making sure you're in alignment, that you're not asking for the whole amount, that you have a board. The other tip I will give you, find out who the program officer is and email them and call them and set up a Zoom or face-to-face meeting and make them your best friend. I really just want to mic drop and then just say we're done for today because that was really good. Okay, does anybody need me to repeat that or clarify? Foundation grants are the most that have the capacity building grants. So that means they'll pay for payroll, overhead, like stuff that like a restricted grant won't pay for. Foundation grants are my favorite for that. Okay. Brian, when you tried to get your UEI number, they noticed I was, yes. Okay, before I keep going on, because I had that happen on my nonprofit too. What was your solution? So if you're a nonprofit that uses like a virtual mailing address or like a UPS store or anytime mailbox, you won't be able to get your UEI number. They'll reject you. They want a physical address. Brian, what did you do?
Nothing. Yeah, I didn't know where to go.
Okay. Okay, so here's my recommendation. Find a local partner, like a community center or a collaborative workplace who has a physical brick and mortar location, and ask them if you can use their address as your physical location for your nonprofit. And then you'll want to have one piece of paperwork, like either a bank statement or a utility bill or something that just shows that that location and your nonprofit are connected. And that's how you'll get your UEI number. Does that help?
Sharon, this is Karen. I'm just
Hey,
jumping
Karen.
in because you said
Sure.
in California, I'm not sure where he is, but in California, they have what's called peer working spaces. And
Correct.
it's actually an address, and you can just get a virtual for like $49 a month, or just the mail come for like $20 a month, but you need to do your research. And that's what we use at Hunter Star Foundation. Plus, they have rooms that you can do conferences in, go
Yep.
there every day and work. So
Yep.
I wanted to
I
share that.
love collaborative workplaces for that. Brian, I know out where you are, there's a lot. Los Angeles has tons of them, but everywhere you are, you can just Google. It's kind of like basically like those WeWork. WeWork isn't as popular anymore, but it's basically like the same concept. And you can use that as your physical address. Thank you, Brian.
Mhm.
Hey,
Okay.
Dr. Sharon,
Yes.
I just want to jump in on two whys behind something you said. You said that if essentially the program has a budget of 100,000 and you're asking for 100,000, the likelihood of you getting it is almost zero. And it just like in the for-profit space, no one wants to be your only source. And if they were to back out, all of a sudden this thing wouldn't happen. Just like when a startup gets funded, people love to be the second, third money, matching funds, same thing in the nonprofit space. They want you to be sustainable. The why behind the address is stability. They want to know that you exist, that you are not a fly-by-night entity. It also eliminates people from scamming. So one, they want to see stability. Two, there are people that try to pull off scams and get grant money to a PO box. So just wanted to jump in there on those two.
Beautiful. Thank you. Any questions?
And where do you go apply for your UEI?
Go to sam.gov. So you're going to need a sam.gov is where you'll apply for your UEI. And then also make sure you have a login for grants.gov. Because when you actually apply to that grant, it'll be at grants.gov, and grants.gov will say, what's your UEI number? And you'll get the UEI from sam.gov.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually a fairly easy process. It just takes a long time, and they're very anal about the documentation and like Brian said, and I ran into the same issue with you have to have a physical brick and mortar location. Okay, so the third category under grants is corporate grants. So this is funding from corporate foundation, corporate social responsibility programs. So with corporate grants, this would be like asking, like if you're an animal welfare organization, you would go to the Petco Foundation. You can go to CVS has a foundation. I actually on the Nonprofit Plug Instagram in the stories I just posted, CVS announced a grant. It's for specific states, but if you go watch our stories, you can click on apply. Those are corporate grants. Here's the caveat to that one. Your mission, and just like the other categories, needs to be in alignment with the mission of that corporate foundation. So if you're Petco, they only want to help animal welfare. Don't apply for your transitional housing program or your mental health program. This is not in alignment, right? They want to see that you're doing stuff with animals. Another great one is like all of the pharmacy companies. Oh my God. And they have so much money. Pharmacy companies have foundations. Banks have foundations. Those are your corporate partners. Wherever you bank at, make besties with the branch manager. That's how I get all my bank money. Make besties with the branch manager. I will go in there once a month, every other month, just to make sure he does not ever forget me. Okay.
Dr. Sharon?
Yep.
Just want to jump in there on that. Think about entities, companies that you have supported for years and given them thousands and thousands of dollars in service, whether it's gasoline or whatever the product or service. They may, and very well, as Dr. Sharon mentioned, have a foundation or be willing to donate because you've already sown a lot of seed. Time to reap it. Ask. You know, never
Chick-fil-A,
know.
Target,
Yep.
Walmart, literally everyone has a foundation side, and they call it, usually in the corporate sector, they call it corporate social responsibility.
Yep.
The other really cool thing that corporations do, so don't forget that diversifying your revenue stream also means getting in-kind donations and volunteers. It's not just a dollar when you're diversifying, because maybe an in-kind donation of $10,000 worth of mattresses saved you from $10,000 out of your pocket. So don't forget about those. Costco, Amazon, Ruby, good ones. Absolutely. So when you're thinking about in-kind donations also or volunteers, banks, a lot of corporate entities will pay their employees to come volunteer at your event. They literally give them their salary to come volunteer at your event and will require them or offer to them 40 plus hours a year in volunteer time that they pay. Banks are really notorious for this. A lot of big corporations are as well.
A law firm I was with spent a lot of time and effort giving pro bono hours to nonprofits. So if you have people you serve in your system and they need legal services, large law firms, and go big, a lot of large law firms will donate time at their location, at their space, and allow you to bring a busload of people in to be served.
Okay. Second strategy for diversifying your revenue stream, donations. Let's talk about donations for a minute. And Michael, I want to have you jump in and talk about donor acquisition and that kind of stuff. But there's three main areas of donations: individual donations, major gifts, and planned giving. Individual donations is developing your donor cultivation strategy to build relationships with individual people. That'd be like coming to me specifically or Michael specifically. Individual people are your individual donations. The second category under donations, major gifts. Major gifts are when you identify and cultivate relationships with potential major donors. I classify major donors as anything as $5,000 and above. That is a major donor to me. Now, maybe if you're like Goodwill or United Way, maybe a major donor is 100,000. If you're Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles, it's a hospital. By the way, hospitals have foundations and you can apply for grants from hospitals too. Trey, that if you, for your next event, hospitals are a really good one for you. They love being at academic and university type events. They'll come set up a booth and maybe cut you a 5K check or something like that. So don't forget healthcare and insurance companies like LA Care.
Okay, thank you.
So major donors, anything $5,000 and above. Now, when you're a massive nonprofit organization and you get to the levels of like United Way and ones like that massive, they have a full-time employee and team called the Major Giving Team, who literally spends their full-time hours focusing on major donors and getting checks for 5, 10, 15 and above $1,000 higher checks. That's major donors. The third category under donations is planned giving. This is like legacy giving, such as bequests, charitable trusts, and annuities. So it's another way of, as you cultivate relationships over years with donors, sometimes they fall so in love with your nonprofit that in their planned giving, when in their wills and whatever, they will leave their assets to your nonprofit. It's actually very common. Like life insurance policies, they'll leave that to a nonprofit over their own family. So keep that in mind as you're developing these relationships with your donors. So the main three categories so the second revenue stream diversification is donations. Under donations is individual donations, major gifts, planned giving. Michael, anything you want to add to that about donor cultivation and donor acquisition?
Sure, a couple of things. Just by, well, in the chat, give me a heart if you have received a donation that was a result of you actually asking an individual. You've received a donation over, say, $250 that was a result of you asking for it. Not they came to you, but you actually had to pursue them. Give me a heart in the chat. All right, Karen. Awesome. Trey. Perfect. Okay, I'll wait. I'll wait. Okay. I saw Jeffrey's come up on the screen. Good stuff. Brian. Excellent. Excellent. Natasha. Good. Good. Maurice. Awesome. The reason I'm making that point is because too often, and I'm glad there's nobody in this room, maybe somebody watching the recording, but sometimes executive directors, and when you have a nonprofit, you feel that asking for donations is begging. I've actually heard that people feel uncomfortable. Well, it's like, I don't really like asking. And I love it, Brian, for the honesty. I'm terrible at asking contacts and friends for money. We're actually going to have a lunch and learn on that, because there's a way to ask friends and family for money. And believe it or not, you don't. You ask them if they know of someone. So we'll talk about some keys on that. Okay. So, but kudos to those that have put hearts in there. There are people that want to give to your organization. One, they don't know who you are. And two, you just haven't asked them yet. Donations are an opportunity for that individual to serve your community. Sorry. I used to do missionary work to Africa. People gave to me because they're like, I can't go to Africa with you. So this is my opportunity to serve your community. So sometimes a mindset has to change a little bit. You giving them an opportunity to serve your community. And then also too, you need to have a pitch for your organization, and you should be able to pitch yourself, because people will give to you and they will give to your organization. Sometimes they're given because they think Brian is a freaking awesome guy, and anything that he heads up, I'm going to give to. I met Trey the other night at an event, and I was so just blown away by her energy, and I'm writing them a check. So a lot of times we think it's an organization. People give to people also. So we'll be talking about that. I said, see in the chat, I found starting regular conversations and bringing up my nonprofit, then plugging in the ask over a meal or gathering makes it easier. Absolutely. Over a meal and conversation is building rapport, building relationship. So we'll talk about those steps of donor cultivation, but that's all I wanted to add. But a real big one, never feel funny about whether it's friends or family, you're giving them an opportunity to serve your community. So back to you, Sharon.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. We're going to go on to the third diversification strategy, corporate sponsorships. And once I get through all these, hopefully I get through all these, I'll rename each category again, just so that you guys know the exact ones that we cover, because under each category is a whole bunch of stuff. I know it's overwhelming, but it's really good info. Okay. So third strategy, corporate sponsorships. There's two under this. We've got event sponsorship and we've got cause marketing. Event sponsorship would be like seeking corporate sponsorships for fundraising events and for programs. Trey, just because you're like right there in the middle of my screen, and you have your video on, I'm just going to go straight to you. So an example of this would be Trey hosts an event where people can come and learn about HBCU advocacy and connect with other HBCUs. And she's at markets and she's at other things. Maybe it costs to put on that event. So getting a corporate sponsor to cover that cost is what Trey is trying to do. So that one, her expenses are covered, and two, she's got some revenue coming in to pay for program materials, scholarships, additional outreach, etc. That's an example of an event sponsorship. So there's various sponsorship levels you can do. This would be, you would need to create a deck, have sponsorship levels and different tiers. And, you know, maybe it's like you'll, in exchange, you're going to do extra marketing, blah, blah, blah. All of that kind of stuff is really good for event sponsorship. The second part of corporate sponsorships is cause marketing. So partnering with companies for cause-related marketing campaigns. You're going to highlight how the partnership will mutually benefit both the nonprofit and the business. A really good example of this is Nike and the AIDS awareness. That's doing cause marketing. Tom's and their shoes, another really good one. Anybody else have any good examples of where they've seen like a corporate entity and a nonprofit partner for the benefit? No? Nike's probably one of the largest ones. You guys know about Tom's shoes, right? Like every time you buy a pair of Tom's, then yeah, okay. Those are really fun. I haven't bought a pair of Tom's yet. I don't even know if they're still around. I think so. Okay, so that's the third diversification strategy, is corporate sponsorship. The fourth, Michael, anything you want to add on to that one before I go on?
Yeah, just that sometimes asking, how would you like to serve? How would you like to, how do you see this relationship going? Because there's sometimes when we're thinking either money or product, and they have some creative way to build a relationship with you or serve your community. So always be open to just something maybe they're bringing to the table or something they're thinking. Just think outside the box.
Okay, fourth diversification strategy, fundraising events. So there's really two categories under this one: galas and auctions and community events. So when we're talking about galas, we're talking about an annual one or a charity auction. For those of you that might be using GiveButter as your donor management software, there's a new feature in there that allows you to do online auctions. It's really cool. It's really easy. They literally do all the work for you. You just use their platform to manage the whole thing. It's like the whole thing's like kind of intuitive. It's really awesome. So take a look at, if you're using GiveButter, take a look at their auction feature. I'm personally not a huge fan as this as a revenue stream unless you're a large organization with a budget over 250K or 500, because it can cost $150,000 minimum to put on a gala that gets you a return of 150,000 to maybe $1 million. It's very expensive to put on a gala, and the return isn't that high unless you have, the more money you put in, the more of a return you get. So for new nonprofit organizations, it's not my recommendation. Now, however, you know, I like my caveats. If you get corporate sponsors, or if you have folks that can pay for these expenses, do a gala. That's the best way you can do that. Okay. Any questions on the gala and the auctions? Okay. So the second part of this diversification strategy is community events. Host local events such as fun runs, bike sales, car washes, benefit concerts. That's how you engage the community and raise awareness about your nonprofit's mission. That one is probably one of, by far, my all-time favorites for nonprofits to do. It's minimal to no investment. It gets you out into the community. I'm not sure if Maurice, I see you. I don't know if Erica is still on your, I see the names. You guys don't need to turn your camera on, but they're a really good example. Youth Waves Beyond Watts. They're in Watts, California, of putting on little mini community engagement events. Maurice, can you just give us like a 30-second overview of like some of the stuff you've done, like the car washes?
For fundraising, yeah, we did a car wash actually last Sunday. It was kind of slow, but we still were able to what was it? We raised around $450 in a matter of, I think, 3.5, 4 hours. So we've done stuff like that. We've done like the Krispy Kreme donuts. I think we probably got, I really don't remember. Erica has that. She's in the middle of moving right now, so that's probably why she's not right now. But yeah.
Awesome. And it's super easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of resources. So if you're a new nonprofit, community engagement events are definitely a way to go. So fun runs, bake sales, car washes, benefit concerts.
Yeah, we're still thinking of other like little things here and there. But yeah, I mean the car washes right now are working out for us. I know December, I think we raised almost 1,200, but I think it was because it was pretty cold outside compared to, I think it was Sunday, it was like 95 degrees. So nobody wants to come out around that around that time. Too hot for that. So
But think about it, that's $1,200 in one day you didn't have before. That's a pretty
oh
good.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then Sunday, I think, like I said, we did like 400. It's better than nothing, you know. So I think the heat kept people away.
Yeah. Yep. That totally makes sense. Okay. Fifth diversification strategy, membership fees. This isn't going to be common for a lot of nonprofits, but it is an option. Having people pay a membership fee. So if you're a member-based organization, having tiered memberships, this is a little bit of a different designation with the IRS. So this one would normally need to be established before your 501c3 formation, but it is an option for having revenue. A good example of this one is if you guys have heard of NARAB or like any of the realtist associations. So associations, it's a big deal with them. Real estate groups, what are they called? The chambers of commerce. They have membership fees, and that's a great way of paying for expenses of the organization. I'm not going to spend hardly any time on that one because it's not very common for most nonprofits. But this one is diversification strategy number 6, program fees. Program fees is another one of my all-time favorite ways to bring in revenue into your organization. Most people don't know you can charge for services for your nonprofit organization. Easiest example of this is maybe you're a nonprofit that has an after-school care program or childcare. Having people pay for that, you can do sliding fee scales. People can pay full price for that. Maybe you have enough revenue coming in for that where you can provide scholarships to folks. Program fees are my favorite. In the nonprofit sector, we call that fee for service. So that's charging fees for specific services or programs offered by your nonprofit. So you'll want to ensure that your fees are reasonable and accessible for your target audiences. And then, like I mentioned, having sliding scale fees. So you can implement a sliding scale fee structure based on the participant's ability to pay. So of course you want to ensure equity and access to services for all beneficiaries, but by charging fees, this allows you to offer scholarships or free services. Any questions on program fees? Adelita, my girl.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in the office today. So in terms of that is something that we've considered for some of the programs that we run in this nonprofit in Long Beach that I'm working with. But one thing that's a little strange is if we're receiving the grant to create this program to then provide services to the community, and then if we charge like even a minimal fee, is that allowable or does that vary depending on the grant that you're receiving to fund that program? Because like I feel like what you just shared, like if we were to charge a fee, for example, that would also help not just raise money for scholarships, but to ensure that people that are taking the course, you know, kind of take it seriously, commit and follow through to completion if they paid for it.
Absolutely. So I'll give you a good example of how we're using that at the nonprofit plug, because that's a great way, because sometimes when you offer free, it devalues it, right? And people don't take it seriously. So we're going to be hosting a mastermind event for nonprofits in October. Our goal is for nonprofits to be able to participate in that free. But we're going to charge $1,000 to reserve your spot. And once you complete the weekend program, you'll get that $1,000 back. But I need to know that you as the nonprofit are committed to participating in this weekend event. So same thing for fee for service and for providing fee. I mean, you can even go down as low as, charging $25 or something like that. But psychologically, when you add a dollar value into stuff, and Michael can probably touch on this better than I can, but when you add that dollar and cost, people value it more than free. Even though, like, I provide lunch and learns for free, but sometimes if there's a dollar sign on it, sometimes more people show up because they think that there's extra, when psychologically it does that. But really, I'm going to give you the best, highest quality value free or charged. Michael, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Sometimes when they're free tag, people don't take things as serious, but knowing that, you know, if I were to pull in Dr. Sharon on a project and say, hey, consult with me for an hour, it may be $1,500 an hour. It may be $2,000 an hour, depending on what she's speaking on. So to know that we get that type of value here in Lunch and Learns and what I charge per hour consulting. So yeah, putting the dollar value goes a long way. The other little fundraiser thing I wanted to talk about too, not sure what's available in LA, but I know in New York, New Jersey, concessions of large stadiums offer nonprofit concession events. So I know Giant Stadium did it. Let's see. I know AT&T, San Antonio Spurs, they do it. The Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers, Philadelphia Eagles. I was trying to find one in California, but check with what is it, Crypto Arena that the
Yep.
Lakers play at? I would check with them because there's a good chance that they'll allow you to come in, you serve on concessions, and then based on the amount sold, they give you a percentage. So it's a really cool thing. Everybody gets to pull together. It's a fun time. I've done it at a Giant Stadium in New York, New Jersey.
That actually makes me think of something in addition to like concessions, but a lot of these sporting facilities, you can partner with them and be their like nonprofit of the day or nonprofit of that event,
Yeah.
and they'll feature the heck out of you. Los Angeles is really good. Dodgers do it, Lakers do it. I don't care about the other team there, so I can't even remember their name right now. I'm having a brain fart. Blue and red, blue and red. Somebody's got to help me out here. Clippers. Oh my
Clippers, okay.
They all do that. So reach out to your local sports team. They have a corporate social responsibility program. It's exactly what it's called for all of the like NFL and NBA foundations, and partner with them.
Yep. And a lot of times I'll watch stuff on the news. This happened just today. Dr. Sharon, I had to call her. Sometimes things that are in the headlines and you may see a celebrity or sports player connected with it, shoot them an email, send them a notice about who you are and what you do. They may say just one thing. Yeah, I'd love to be able to give back. Again, you're the opportunity. So don't be afraid to just send a really simple, straightforward, love to chat with you about. Not that you ask them for $1, because they get that all the time, but reaching out to people, you'd be shocked. And Dr. Sharon, I did get a response immediately.
I saw.
So,
I saw.
Yep. So,
So cool.
and if you think of someone and you're like, hey, I don't know how to approach them, that's perfect for the Lunch and Learn too. Or you can reach out to us and we'll tell you a creative way to reach out to someone.
Ruby just dropped a gem in the chat box, and it actually reminded me of something in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. They actually do this. So sporting facilities love to have nonprofit members work their concessions, and then they pay your organization. So Ruby did it as part of the Dodgers, but I know SoFi Stadium also does this. They'll literally pay your nonprofit to have your volunteers come there. They still use the word volunteer, but they're paying you. So
Yeah.
definitely check your locals. Trey, Adelita, some of the other Los Angeles ones, Dodgers Foundation, the Rams have a dope corporate social responsibility program. Really easy to contact them and connect with them too.
And one thing I
go ahead,
suggest
sorry.
though, you've talked about a lot of things, and this is definitely one of the ones. Listen to the recording, and it's a lot, and it can feel overwhelming. But there's one or two that we said that really probably resonate with you. I would say in the next 24 hours, reach out to them.
Yep.
In the net, don't wait. Don't put it on the list. Oh, I got to talk to the board. I mean, again, I'm not saying break any rules, but realistically reach out to them in the next 24 hours because Dr. Sharon is dropping some gems.
Amen. Okay. I have two more categories, and then I want to be able to open it up for questions. So the last two categories are merchandise sales and earned income ventures. So merchandise sales, pretty basic. Branded merchandise. Sell branded merchandise such as t-shirts, mugs, tote bags. Use this merchandise to promote the nonprofit's brand and mission. Not really a whole lot more I need to say about that one, but what I will say is if you do branded merchandise and you do merchandise sales, be sure you work with your CPA or bookkeeper on appropriate and accounting principles on how to record that in your financials. If you don't have an accounting firm or a bookkeeper, shameless plug, Ruby is the Nonprofit Plug Director of Financial Services, and we do provide accounting and bookkeeping for nonprofits. So if you need accounting and bookkeeping and financial management, definitely reach out to us. Michael, will you do me a solid and drop the link to our booking page from the website in the chat?
Yes.
So if you need that, book a discovery call with us. We can talk to you about financial management and accounting, because there are specific ways to record merchandise sales for nonprofits. So definitely, if you already have a CPA and a bookkeeper, talk to them about how to make sure you're appropriately doing that. If not, reach out to the Nonprofit Plug and we'll take care of you. So under merchandise sales is also having an online store. That's where you can set up an online store to reach a broader audience, promote merchandise through sales, social media, email marketing. Just another great way to bring in revenue. You know, maybe it costs you like $10 to make a sweatshirt with your logo on it. You sell it for $35, $55. People will pay that, since it's specifically for a cause, it's for a mission. Any questions on merchandise? I'm covering these last two really quick because I want to open it up. I want to go real quick, just tell you the 8 categories again, and then open it up for questions. Any questions on merchandise sales? Jeffrey, I just have to say, like, you're right there also smack dab in the middle of my screen right next to Trey. And I love having people with their videos on, because it's so engaging. You're like nodding your head, you're smiling. I just want to say thank you. I really love that, because it lets me know that I'm not talking crap, right? And it lets me know that there's people listening, and I just really love it. Plus, you and Trey are like right next to each other, and it's the most adorable thing. I love it. Okay. Last category I want to cover.
Sharon?
Yes.
The link that was shared comes up suspicious. So, and it's a 404, it says 404 on it. So I don't know if anybody else is getting that, but I'm on my phone again and I'm driving. So I just wanted to see if anyone else is getting a suspicious
Okay.
notification.
We'll give it a try. Don't forget,
Okay.
even though on social media, just tag us so we can repost stuff for you. Okay, the last one I want to go over is earned income ventures. Not very popular. This is more so for like massive nonprofit organizations, but it's a great way to do it. This is social enterprises. So this is developing a business venture that generates income while advancing the nonprofit's mission. Examples of this: thrift stores, cafes, training programs. Those are social enterprises. If you're in Los Angeles, the perfect example I can give you of this is the South Los Angeles Community Foundation, which is the social enterprise of the South LA Cafe. So any of you who are in South LA, South Central, and you check out South LA Cafe, their coffee is really good, and so is their avocado toast. But they have a social enterprise through the South LA Community Foundation. They do training programs and things like that. It's a really cool organization. Look them up. That'll give you a good example. The other part about earned income ventures would be business activities. So you could explore opportunities for income generating activities related to the nonprofit's expertise. Examples: consulting services, workshops, product sales. That is what the Nonprofit Plug Foundation is doing. We are offering workshops under the Nonprofit Plug Foundation. That's a business activity. We do charge for it. It helps bring in revenue and cover the cost to provide nonprofits even more support and services. So let me just mention these 8 categories one last time so that you guys have a final summary. These are the 8 categories for diversifying revenue streams. Number 1, grants. Number 2, donations. Number 3, corporate sponsorships. Number 4, fundraising events. Number 5, membership fees. Number 6, program fees. Number 7, merchandise sales, and 8, earned income ventures. Okay. Anybody have any questions on any of those specifically? I'm going to leave the last 10 minutes open for discussion, questions, comments. And your comments and questions can be anything nonprofit related, does not have to be specific to today's topic. Adelita, the queen of questions, ask away. You're on mute, my dear.
Okay, there we go. With the last thing that you just mentioned, so the city of Long Beach is like a really big government entity that's constantly contracting out services. The last thing that you just mentioned, like if your nonprofit is a specialist in something, one of the nonprofits I work with, they specifically engaged the low income Latino community in a particular neighborhood. When the city puts out then those requests for like services, like community engagement, the nonprofit is eligible to do work in that space,
Absolutely.
even though
Like,
you're a nonprofit.
yeah, so specifically they call that an RFP, request for proposal. And a lot of times city requests for proposals are specifically meant for nonprofits to apply. Especially you'll see that in in transitional housing, mental health, youth programming. You'll see it a lot in those areas. So that's a really great revenue opportunity, is getting on the email list for requests for proposals for your local city. Those are really good. They're not fun applications, but they're really good. If you get that contract, you know, it's awesome. Any other questions, comments? Any venting anybody needs to do? We do. Michael's not a therapist, but I call him a therapist. So we have him on here. Anybody have relationship issues, you know, you can go to him too.
If nobody else has a question, I'll ask another question. I have lots of questions.
Listen, you're asking questions on behalf of everybody. Go ahead, girl.
Another thing that you mentioned was so the nonprofit right now, the one that I work with, we just finished like a business development 8-week series with like 40 participants. One thing that you said was like you can sell stuff or like, you know, make revenue based off of this program. You're selling stuff. I feel like that program that we just concluded would be a perfect pilot for us to do that. But in selling stuff, who is our customer if it's located in a low income community? And I don't know that what we sell would be accessible to that community. Like, who would we look to sell to?
Okay, tell me about, like, tell me a little bit more about the specific service.
Okay, so it's a 501c3 in Long Beach, California, Latinos in Action, California. We just finished an 8-week program called Prospera Long Beach, which was a workshop for 40 women, most of them mothers, Spanish speaking. We taught them like sewing skills, cake decorating, business management, and a makeup application, because the goal with that was to help them access gig type of employment.
Sure.
And so I feel like with that, like, yes, they're going to be selling, you know, the gig types of services, but for the organization, there might be an opportunity for them to also help the organization raise funds through that. But in thinking through that, now that you mentioned that, like, who would our customer be?
So, okay, here's a good example for you, because you're also in the Los Angeles area. Homeboy Industries. You know how they have the Homegirls Cafe?
Mm.
That's literally what they
Okay.
do. So they were like, okay, what can we do to help our community get a trade, get a skill set, get some education? So they taught formerly incarcerated individuals, former gang members, how to cook, how to bake, how to do cafe stuff. So then Home Bay was like, well, duh. So how can we get more income in our organization? So they created their own nonprofit cafe. Did you know that the Homegirl Cafe is now in the Los Angeles airport? And the nonprofit hires formerly incarcerated, former gang members who now have full-time incomes and are providing these services to the community. And now Homeboy Industries has an entire revenue stream because now they have a restaurant. So think about maybe your organization, if all of these folks are getting these trade specialties, maybe these are services that you may pick one and specialize in it. I wouldn't have everybody doing like everything, but pick one, specialize in it, and open that as a service line. Open a cafe, open a beauty salon, open a beauty school, you know, whatever is your most popular one. And then you say, hey, community, we have people who specialize as makeup artists. Do you need makeup artists for your event? Do you need barbers? Do you, you know, I'm like, I'm the worst person to ask about beauty stuff. Whatever other stuff like that in that industry. But do you see what I'm saying, like with Homeboy Industries and how they did the Homegirl Cafe and
Yeah. And I don't know why I didn't think of that.
they
That's
have
such a good idea though. Yeah.
LAX.
Okay. That's awesome.
I've never seen a nonprofit get it to that level, which is really cool to see, but that's like the perfect example of that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
This is
What
great.
else do we have?
Sounds like Trey's has a
Oh,
question.
Trey, go ahead. Thank you.
How do you, I guess, like me being in so brand new, how do you not let funding hold you back? A lot of the stuff I have been doing is like out of pocket, like when we do like the markets and things like that. Like we were grateful to get a grant one time, but they don't always like offer grants. So how you just, I guess, not.
Donor cultivation. You've got to get yourself to the mindset of really starting to cultivate the people in your network, and also getting your board to cultivate the people in their network and get comfortable asking for their support. Now, it may not be directly saying, hey, can I have $500? Maybe it's saying, hey, I'm looking for volunteers, or you can even ask them, is there a way that you think you'd like to be a part of this organization and support us? Maybe it's someone you know well enough that's willing to do a $500 fundraiser on behalf of your organization. That's what you're going to really need to start doing, so that you can start getting some capital to start doing a lot of the stuff that you want to do with your organization. Michael, do you want to touch on that one anymore?
No, to that point, I say to all executive directors and founders, you have to decide the date that you're going to stop supporting your nonprofit, and that you say, you know what? Starting November 1st, it's got to be all about grants and donors, because what happens is otherwise you'll always be giving, always be out of pocket. But what if literally tomorrow there was some law passed that said you couldn't give and you only had to go with donors? You would step it up. Sometimes it becomes a little bit of a crutch being able to reach in your pocket. But unfortunately, sometimes you can hold your nonprofit back by doing that. So yeah,
Great, stop it.
Start the conversations. Yeah.
To kind of add on advice in that, in building a board, because right now I don't have support. When we first started, I did have a strong, solid board. Everybody wanted to help, but then as we started needing to get stuff done and time commitment and stuff, one-man show right now, woman show.
So one thing I would do, go to the bank that you bank at for your nonprofit and start making besties with the manager there and see if you can get a sponsorship from them. Start reaching out to volunteers, people who come to your events. Honestly, don't judge anybody that you know. Make that list of 100 people and call every single one of them. Do you want to volunteer? Would you be interested in doing a fundraiser on our behalf? Do you want to learn more about us? Things like that. Make a list of 100 people. I guarantee you probably at least a quarter of those will do something for you. Just, it's that old, I probably sound like a broken record on my Jerry Lewis thing here, because it works so well. It really does. And it re-engages people too. There may be some people that to re-engage. The other really cool place to go to is colleges that need students and staff that need volunteer hours, students that want to do in the marketing departments. Students are looking for nonprofits to do their projects with. They make really good worker bees.
Okay.
And you're in Southern California. You're around some of the top preem universities in the United States.
Thank you.
Oh, Adelita just put in the chat, California State University Long Beach has requirements for students to volunteer time in the community in order to graduate. Pretty common with most universities. So take advantage of that. Trey, especially because you're an HBCU advocacy group, every single HBCU will have it may not be called corporate social responsibility, but they'll have something like that. I would make a list of your top 25 or top 10 HBCUs and reach out to them and start establishing those relationships.
Thank you.
And we just signed a partnership agreement, but a lot of them are looking now for partners, because when the students start in the fall, they basically want to give them these options. Like, these are the places you can go volunteer hours. But then I also shared Pacific Gateway.
They'll do virtual internships too. So if you guys are, spread out or something, you can get a virtual partnership too.
And there's also Pacific Gateway, where they bring in grants to put people to work, and you can have access to somebody that's just looking for a job, and they'll give you somebody to work with for 400 hours, and they'll pay for that person's time and everything. So for especially, I know, Trey, you mentioned I'm by myself, and that's kind of where I was a year ago, by myself. So, but all of these resources are so helpful, especially Dr. Elefant said, that with the students, I do everything virtual with them, because it's and they're good with tech, and a lot of the stuff that kind of was shared right now, it's you've got to do some research, you've got to start digging into plans, and I feel like that's where the students come in. They'll help you look for all that, and then You just jump into the conversation with that partner and then you go from there.
And then who is it reaching out specifically to? Just the university itself?
CSULB and then Pacific Gateway, two different entities. Pacific Gateway, they'll give you folks that are looking for work. And then CSULB, it'll be unpaid interns, but
Is there a
that's part of their
specific, like,
credit requirements.
is there a specific department within the university that you recommend she starts with?
And that's the thing, they have like a specific student services.
Oh, student
team.
services, right, yeah.
Student services. And the thing is, what I love about working with CSULB is that they've got social workers, they've got business students, they actually have students studying grant writing.
Yep.
And so you can get like different students and different specialties to kind of help you make up your own little team.
And some of them want board experience. Do not put them as voting members on your board immediately, but you can put them on your board as kind of like advisory and start giving them the experience to just sort of help you. And then if you like them, you can add them as a voting member to your board eventually. All right, y'all, that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us at the Nonprofit Plug Lunch and Learn. I love you all. We will be back here next week, 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Every single week, 1 p.m. This is the spot. We will see you guys next week. Have a fantastic week.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.